Good evening. I'm Chris Brown, the John and Adrienne Mars Director of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. Welcome to tonight's Aviation Adventures Lecture. I'm so pleased that so many people are with us in attendance tonight, and many, many more are tuning in online for what promises to be a really interesting evening. This lecture series is the museum's longest-running sponsored program with a fresh new name. As this series enters its 41st year, it will now be called the Aviation Adventure Lecture Series. Aviation Adventures will continue to build on the legacy of the GE Aviation Lecture Series, spotlighting all aspects of aviation from military flight to record-setting feats and to the humanitarian uses of aviation. And it is still sponsored by our friends at GE Aerospace. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to GE Aerospace for their ongoing support of this lecture, which makes it possible for us to provide access to these programs free of charge, both in person and online. And joining us in the audience tonight is Tony Mathis, President and CEO of GE Edison Works. Welcome, Tony, and thanks to you and GE Aerospace for your support. Tonight, we're in for a treat. We'll be hearing directly from an aviator who has piloted one of the most iconic aircraft of all time, the Lockheed U-2. Colonel Merryl Tengesdal, sorry, Merrill, has over 23 years of aviation and leadership experience, serving in both the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force. In 2004, Tengesdal was selected to fly the Lockheed U-2, becoming the first black woman to do so. Indeed, worthy of applause. Thank you. The U-2 is a formidable aircraft, and as a fellow pilot, I personally am excited to hear about her experiences in the pilot seat of such an iconic aircraft. And we're very fortunate here at the museum to have a U-2 in our collection. Our Lockheed U-2C was acquired from the U.S. Air Force in 1982 and was the seventh U-2 built. It was flown by the CIA and later loaned and eventually transferred to the U.S. Air Force. And while it is currently off display due to our ongoing renovation, we are excited to put it back on display on view for our visitors to marvel at in the coming years. But even as we anticipate the U-2 going back on display, there is still so much to see in our new exhibitions that we opened just last fall. These 8 new galleries, the first phase of our ongoing transformation of all 20 galleries at this location, tell inspiring stories of flight in new ways and to new audiences. I hope you'll come back soon to explore them all. Entrance to the museum is free, but timed entry passes are required. You can reserve yours by visiting our website. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our aeronautics curator, Dr. Michael Hankins, to introduce tonight's speaker. Michael?
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you all for being here, for taking the time out of your evening. And for those of you joining us online, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We are thrilled to have you. Like you said, my name is Mike Hankins. I'm a curator here at the National Air and Space Museum. We're here to talk tonight about taking on challenges in a lecture series called Aviation Adventures, and I am hard-pressed to think of a person that embodies those concepts more than our speaker here tonight. She commissioned in the U.S. Navy in 1994, which is an important time, not long after the restriction on women in combat roles was lifted. She flew CH-60 Seahawks for a while and then transferred to the U.S. Air Force and began flying the U-2, which was not only one of the most strategically important aircraft of the entire Cold War and still today, but is such an iconic airplane that it has inspired everything from a Steven Spielberg movie to the name of one of the most successful rock bands of all time. She has logged over 1,000 hours in the U-2. I did the math, that's over 41 days. She has 330 combat hours, and this was all before she worked at NORAD Northcom. She has multiple degrees in engineering, including an honorary doctorate from the University of New Haven. And if that wasn't enough for you, she's also a TV star on the CBS show Tough as Nails, which is very appropriately titled. Please join me in welcoming Merryl Tengesdal.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's awesome. For all those who don't know, that I was on your podcast as well about 2 years ago, so it's great to see you in person. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Mathis, thank you so much for sponsoring this tonight. Mr. Brown, is General Moore out here? Hey, sir, how are you? Thank you for showing up tonight. Mr. Ulmer, and all my friends and friends out here, it's great to see a lot of you out here. I haven't seen some of you in decades, so it's really, really a pleasure. It's really surreal for me, being a young girl from the Bronx at 7 years old. 44 years ago, I had this goal, and it's all culminated to being here at the National Air and Space Museum and the Planetarium. And for this girl to share parts of her story and journey with you and her perspective. It is a privilege to be here tonight, and I'm truly grateful. My decision to become an astronaut, and that's where this all stemmed from, was born out of a fascination of Star Trek. Yes, I'm a prodigy of Star Trek. I can hear it now. The echoes of Captain Kirk, to explore new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. It changed to no one. And what I love about that is, at 7 years old, there was this crew of the Enterprise that was comprised of this diverse group of people from different ethnicities, different genders. I mean, we had aliens, and they all worked together. And they would typically go on an away mission to a new planet. And regardless of the challenges that they faced, whether it was brokering a peace treaty or was trying to find the alien that was killing the civilians at an outpost, these guys would come together. They would take their skill set that they had cultivated throughout their lives to figure out, to solve, and overcome a problem. And at 7 years old, seeing this week after week, it solidified in my heart and my mind that I too wanted to be like them. I wanted to be an explorer of space. I wanted to be an astronaut. But being born in the 70s, yes, I'm that old. How did I get there? Because at that time, there weren't, in my mind at 7, there weren't many astronauts out there that I can emulate. No one looked like me. So how do I get to this goal of becoming an astronaut? And because I really had no role models or no trailblazers at that time, I looked to the fictional characters of Star Trek. And I looked to those as the blueprint for how I was going to conduct my life. So I looked at the crew of the Enterprise and I said, oh, they all went to Starfleet Academy. So therefore, I guess I got to go to college and get a degree. I looked at most of them, whether they were science officer, in the medical profession, whether they were engineer, they all loved the stars. They all had to use math. So I said, okay, well, if I'm going to go to college, I have to begin in math and science. And then I was so intrigued by Sulu and Chekhov. I'm an original series Trekkie, folks. And I looked at them and I said, hey, these guys are flying the Enterprise. I want to do that. I want to fly as well. So what do I need to do? Okay, well, I can't go to do the shuttle right now, so I guess I'm going to have to fly aircraft. I'm going to be a pilot when I grow up. And so I built that basic blueprint. and I started on my way. But when I looked at the crew, they had all these great skill sets that they cultivated. And the one person in particular was Captain Kirk. And, you know, Kirk was that man that could do anything. He had that swagger. And I was like, oh, how can I be like this guy? What tool sets did he use that I used to help me? And I couldn't figure it out, so I said, you know what? I'm just going to be good at everything. I'm going to look at every challenge that I can, any challenge that comes to me, I'm going to take on. And I'm going to take on with an intensity to be the best that I can. The harder the challenge, the more excited I got. Because I knew that anything that I would take on would give me these tools that I could put in my tool belt that would inform me or make me better as an astronaut once I got there. If I took on a challenge that I wasn't good at, then I'd keep working at it till I was good. If it was a challenge that I was good at, I would keep working on it till perfection. And so as I grew up, I did things like track. Now I'm a terrible runner. But I can throw a javelin at 15 years old at over 96 feet through the middle of someone's eyes. That's awesome. I took every type of science, technology programs that were available to me, whether it was offered by the University of SUNY Binghamton, which I did 2 years in a row, or whether it was going to the Bronx High School of Science and going to Mount Sinai and learning some research. Whatever the challenge was, I would take it on. I did any type of sports that was available. To me, it was culminating to that point where every tool, eventually, I would need it. And I would take on these challenges with discipline, by staying the course, persistence, by keeping at it even if you're not good, and the willingness to learn and grow. And most of the time that was through failure. But it's okay to fail. I think we live in a society now that people don't want to fail, but this is how you learn and grow. And if you have mentors with you and people around you who can encourage you and help you get through that, it's okay. So, as I got older, I started hitting those check boxes. I graduated from college with a degree in electrical engineering. I got picked up by the Navy to go to officer candidate school and follow on to go to flight training. And the reason why I picked the Navy is because at that time I did research. Most astronauts were naval aviators. So that made it the logical choice. But sometimes as you're going through a path and going through a journey, things don't turn out quite as they seem. And I think my first challenging times is when I went through flight school. As I'm going through flight school, I wanted jets. And at the end of my flight training, I missed a jet cutoff by 9/10 of a point. Oh, don't feel bad for me, it's okay. And I think for most people, when they have that first failure and they have these dreams, they'll give up and say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, it's too hard. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I started thinking, hey, all right, I can't be a jet pilot, but what do astronauts have in common? Well, a lot of them go to test pilot school. And I got helicopters, so I said, okay, I'll have to be a test pilot flying helicopters. And I'll be honest with you, in hindsight, you know, helicopters are great. Helicopters are hella cool. I flew the SH-60 Bravo. This aircraft gave me so much experience. This aircraft, I had sonobuoys. I need you to see you sign that one out, because I knew there was not a... They had sonobuoys and torpedoes to conduct anti-submarine warfare. We had Penguin missiles, Hellfire missiles for air-to-surface attacks. We had forward-looking infrared or FLIR to laze our targets and to help other aircraft. We can laze for other aircraft as well. We could do over-the-horizon targeting. We could do communications relay, search and rescue. We could do medevacs, PAX transfers, cargo transfers, vertical replenishment. We could do all these things. Do you know how many tools I got flying helicopters? I mean, it was amazing. And what this teaches me is that, in spite of the circumstances that happen to you, you have to look for those opportunities that will propel you and get you closer to your goal. So I didn't get jets, but what else can I do to still make me viable to go to NASA and be an astronaut one day? Learning as much as possible. Do you know at age 60, they do operational tests and they do things that I can't even talk about to this day? And I tried to learn all that on this helicopter. So my tool belt was getting pretty heavy with flying this aircraft. And quite frankly, it was making my resume more broad-based. And so from there, after my helicopter tour, I'm still looking for challenges, still looking to become that astronaut. And an opportunity came up to flying a different type of aircraft, to going back as an instructor, flying the T-6. It was a new aircraft bought by the Navy and the Air Force. And this challenge for me was special because I actually told my detailer I wanted to do something with another branch of service. It's almost like going on an away mission and meeting the Romulans for the first time. I wanted to meet the Air Force for the first time. And I wanted to experience a different culture and a different mindset and learn from them. And at that point, my detailer said, I have a job for you. You could be one of the first 4 Navy instructor pilots to train in the T-6. And I got another pilot out here as well, Dave. There you go. And so what I loved about this job is we got to teach students, and I got to learn what it's like to be an instructor and to be a leader and to mentor. And those were good skill sets to have, good tools to put in my belt. But what it also did, it provided an unexpected opportunity for me. Towards the end of my tour, my boss at the time and my now husband recommended that maybe going over to the U-2 would be an option. And I said, they wear pressure suits, they do all these, they fly high. Okay, let's go for it. And again, you're looking for these opportunities despite the circumstances. I didn't become a test pilot. I was looking still to work with NASA. I was going to go back to college. But when the U-2 opportunity came on, I said yes. So I applied, I interviewed, and I got accepted. Now, most people would say, wow, you started in helicopters and you went to U-2s. That must have been very hard and very difficult. Well, no, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, the U-2 is one of the hardest aircraft in Air Force inventory to land. It is a bicycle landing gear configuration. The wingspan is 104.8 feet. It is a glider with a GE engine attached, the 118-101, or F-18 GE 101, 17,000 pounds of thrust. And you have to interview for this. And when you interview, about 50% of the applicants that make the interview process get selected. And the reason why this was not so scary for me is because as a helicopter pilot, the U-2 has all these sensors, these arrays. It's a plug-and-play system similar to the helicopter. One day I could be doing an anti-submarine mission. Another day I could be doing a search and rescue mission. The U-2 is an intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platform that has the ability to change surveillance sensors. So one could be a Doppler sensor, the ASARS package, or an electrical, optical, infrared, or it can also have an optical bar camera. So every day is a different type of mission. Well, I had done that in the helicopter. So that was one tool that I had that made it easier to deal with, I would say. The U-2 It is difficult because you have to land and stall the aircraft at 2 feet. So you have to hear calls from a mobile, who is another pilot in a chase car that's going down the runway with the U-2 in speeds of about 100 miles an hour and giving calls to the pilot. Well, in the SH-60 helicopter, when we come to land on the back of the boat, we have what's called a RAS system, that you have a probe that you have to put in a trap, and a pilot or an air crew member is giving you calls, and they're telling you left or right. In the U-2 seen in this video here, you're getting calls of 2 feet, approximately 1 feet, inches, and you have to stay no drift or no crab on center line. So hearing what I heard in the helicopter transferred easily to the U-2. The U-2 is an aircraft that you fly by yourself. We always say we're alone, unarmed, and unafraid. In the helicopter community, there's about 3 of us, but I'm an only child, so I'm used to being alone. It didn't bother me at all. So these skills that I'm cultivating over time, that I get to use from growing up, from learning in college to getting my degrees, to flying helicopters, to instructing, to flying the U-2, gaining more perspective as a pilot wearing now a pressure suit. The skill sets that I got in the U-2, wearing a pressure suit and having my body subjected to the physiological stressors of flying above 70,000 feet, because this is where the U-2 flies. It's about twice the height of any airliner, and we wear the pressure suit for 2 purposes. One, to provide 100% oxygen under pressure to us, and the other reason why is if the cockpit depressurizes. At the time I was flying it, if the cockpit pressurization was at about 29,000 feet, that the suit would inflate to keep your body at 35,000. Because above 63,000, there's not enough pressure in the atmosphere to keep the blood in your body. So it's just a little dangerous. But I did it, and I took on that challenge. Why? Because I knew it would get me closer to being an astronaut, to working with NASA. Now, at the end of the day, did I make it to be an astronaut? No, not yet. Hey, Elon, call me. But I will tell you that the journey to get there gave me some amazing perspective, and it still is a great journey. I've gotten to see the Earth at an altitude that most people in their lifetime will never be able to see. I've been able to see the curvature of the Earth, and for all you flat earthers out there, stop talking about that. Okay? There are nights, one of my best nights was flying over around Edwards Air Force Base at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got to see a shooting star go from right to left underneath my aircraft. I got to realize that we are so small in life that all the drama that goes on is very insignificant. I got to be with a cadre of professionals, both men and women, flying this aircraft, and to create a bond with them, because we see this almost every day. There are times if no one's at the International Space Station, we are the highest pilots flying that day. It's pretty awesome. So I implore you to, in life, if you have goals, to really think big, to dream really big where people think maybe you're a little crazy, because if they're not, maybe it's not that lofty. And to go on the journey, build this framework, but look for those opportunities despite the circumstances. Be flexible, be adaptable in your approach. Always look back at your goal and see if you're getting closer, because if you are, you're on the right path. This is your path to do. And don't forget, as you're traveling, to just take a stop and look at where you are going and look at the journey that you're taking, because it's beautiful. And the skills that you're building will one day help you in the future. I don't know when that's going to be, but it's going to help you. Because on my path, taking on these challenges with intention just helped me and culminate into flying the U-2 aircraft. And I'm still taking on challenges even after retirement. I did this little reality show called Tough as Nails, where they throw you in situations that you haven't seen, and they're like, good luck. You need to win or you're going to get eliminated. And I've taken on the challenges of raising kids, which I don't know if I have enough tools ever to deal with them. But I will tell you, the journey with them is something special. And I'm not sure where I'm going to go next. I do, but I'll let you figure that out when you follow me on Instagram at DragonLady788. I'm going to throw that in there. Or on Facebook. So, I will just say this one last time. Just things to think about. Always set those goals outside your reach. Don't be fearful of new experiences or challenges, because they're going to add to you personally, and you will grow, you will fail. It will feel daunting at times, but you will overcome. Just like the crew of the Enterprise, unless you were a red shirt. I guess I hope, like, only the Trekkies understand that one. Look for opportunities despite the circumstances. If you have to take a detour, it's okay. Never forget to enjoy the journey. Be bold, be daring. Don't forget to shatter your own sky. I thank you very much for listening to me today. And I'm here for any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We have plenty of time for questions. We have a microphone that you can line up at right there in the back of the room. And if you're watching online, you'd like to ask a question, drop it in the chat, and they will feed it to me on this little device here, and we can ask questions that way. I'm going to take my prerogative, though, as the person up here, to ask the first question.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes.
So, I have so many questions.
All right.
But
Follow-ups.
first, the experience of flying the U-2 seems so amazing and unbelievable. Can you talk us through what is the preparation for a typical mission? What would you have to do prior to getting in the airplane to get ready?
Okay, so a typical mission, typically about 2 hours and 15 minutes prior to actually takeoff time, you come in and you brief. So you're going to brief with, you're going to start with, I think, your intelligence brief for the mission. You're going to brief with maintenance to see if anything is going on. Your goals is to be on oxygen about 1 hour prior to your takeoff time. That was the minimum. The reason why you needed to do that is so basically nitrogen bubbles in your body cause decompression sickness, and that's what we're susceptible to at these high altitudes. So breathing 100% oxygen will basically, you're off-gassing yourself. So you're getting the nitrogen bubbles out of your body. And so after your brief, your 2 briefs, you would go to who's called the physiological support detachment. And these guys would they'll check your blood pressure, they'll check your vitals to make sure you are safe to fly. Because for decompression sickness, there's a lot of variables that will make you more susceptible that day. So if you have enough water, if you had enough sleep, how much oxygen you're breathing prior. If you're sick, congested, that's a bad thing. In the suit, what you eat for that day is important. You don't want anything that will trigger number 2. So you want to make sure that you are ready to go. So once they do those checks, you'll get in the suit. They will what's called integrate you. You will get on oxygen prior. I usually got on right at the hour prior. That's just my habits. And then you would give them what you wanted to eat for that day. We have what's called tube food. That's pureed food that's made by Natick Labs. And then you would, they'll integrate you, they'll set you up, they'll check your suit for integrity to make sure it holds the pressures. And then from there, you're taken out to your aircraft about 40 minutes prior. You have a mobile who actually pre-flights the aircraft for you because it would be very difficult to pre-flight the aircraft in the suit. So they do that, they check the forms for you. And then approximately 30 minutes, you get integrated into the aircraft by the physiological support detachment. And start engines probably about 20 minutes prior. So I'm doing this all from memory, but it was pretty routine. And then you'd probably be you'd taxi out probably about 10 minutes prior after you start engines, no problems, and then take off. So to get one person into space, there are a lot of moving pieces. And there are a lot of people, like we're the stars of the show, but it's not possible without your physiological support, your maintenance people, your crew chiefs, your intel officers that are giving you the threat, the brief, everything for that day. So, I mean, these are a great group of people, and, you know, I had the honor and pleasure to be the Director of Operations and Acting Commander at the Physiological Support Detachment. I've always loved maintenance because when I flew helicopters, I was a maintenance officer, a det maintenance officer, det operations, and I love maintenance. If you give me a wrench, I'm trying to touch the aircraft, but usually maintenance doesn't like that. They get a little mad. They're like, no. But I have turned some wrenches on helicopters. Air Forces, the Romulans are a little different. They don't let you touch the aircraft.
Fantastic. We have someone here who'd like to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your presentation. First, actually 2 questions. Were you stationed at Beale?
Yes.
And did you got a chance to fly jets? I understand they get to fly T-38s there as far as training.
Yes.
And the second part was you mentioned the shooting star. Anything strange that you saw that you can discuss, or anybody that ever came up to try to join you at altitude? Thank you.
Okay, so yes, when you fly the U-2, you fly 2 aircraft. You have the T-38 aircraft, which is the companion trainer. I flew the T-38, have hundreds of hours. I was an instructor in the T-38 as well. And as far as the U-2, that was just it was a shooting star. There was no one rejoining. There was no discs in the air. Yes, I've flown over Area 51, but I'm really boring when it comes to that. Uneventful. No aliens are really interested in me.
Let's jump to an online question real quick. So this is an interesting one that I'm curious about as well. What were the benefits and differences between naval aviation and the Air Force aviation communities?
Guys are trying to get me in trouble. Do you have a name of the person who wrote that?
They don't tell me the names. They've been,
I know it's one of my
protected
friends trying to set me up. Anyway, so we could go into this for about half an hour, but I will try to give you the differences. First of all, both branches of service produce highly qualified pilots. So let me preface that. From my experiences being an instructor, Navy instructor in the Air Force trains pilots. You're never out of range to talk to anyone higher up in the Air Force. Like if something's going down, you can always talk to someone and kind of maybe delegate some of the responsibility. From my opinion, because I know some hackles are starting to go up. In the Navy, when you're flying, on the back of the boat. Sometimes you are away from your ship and you have no communications with anyone. So when stuff goes down in the Navy, it is you that makes the decisions, period. You have no one to call. And you better make the right decision, because if there's an accident, you're going to be standing at the end of the long table and your peers are judging you, and they're going to take your wings away if you messed up. In the Air Force, you always had someone there to kind of help you and talk with. So when it came to training pilots, I think in the Navy, we train pilots to be more autonomous, to make that decision and to be confident about the decisions that they're making. In the Air Force, they train pilots to talk in a group and have a discussion. And I think they're both sound ways to train people, but you're just going to get different people as a result of that. I would say growing up Navy at first, I thought that skill set that I learned as a student just made me more confident as a leader. And when I made decisions, I was more informed, more confident, and I could talk and walk the walk, like, as opposed to my Air Force counterparts. And it's just different. And so that's it in a nutshell.
All right.
So it's not disparaging. I love both the Navy and the Air Force. I think they're both great branches of service. It's just a little bit different, and it's cultural and it's a mindset, and it helps. Just depends on the situation.
Yeah, fantastic. Next question here at the line.
Yes, thank you. First, Colonel, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for support.
It's a pleasure to be here, and you're such an inspiration to many, many people. You kind of hinted as to what maybe is going to happen for you in the future, but give us some more specifics. You've accomplished so much. You're such a great person. What's next for you in your life?
Okay. So, right now, for all those who don't know, I have a book that's out. I did the audiobook to the book that's coming out next Friday. I actually recorded it. It's my voice. I added some things to it. I think it'll be really fun. My goal right now is just to reach a lot more people, a bigger audience, just with my story, because I think now is the time that there are a lot of young people that seem lost, especially during COVID. You look at young men and women, especially teenagers like 13 and 15, who didn't go to school during COVID. They've come out of that, and I think they're still struggling in a way, and I think they need some feel-good stories. There's a lot of negativity on social media. There's a lot of negativity in the news, and I want to make people feel like there is hope, and you can have dreams, you can have these desires, you can do these things, think big, dream big, fail spectacularly, get up and learn and keep going. Like, I want teenagers to be hungry. I want people to have this fire in their belly. And I think telling this story and telling it, this girl from the Bronx had these desires, and look where I'm at. So, yes, that's exactly why I do this. Lamar Rosberg.
That's fantastic.
Wait, before we end,
My name is Jonathan.
Jonathan. So I will tell you, like, Jonathan impresses me so much, because believe it or not, one of the skill sets that I'm trying to cultivate right now is that I'm learning ASL. So I would love, I just think it's amazing to learn that, and again, I'm trying to reach people and reach even the hearing impaired, the deaf community. So I've learned a lot in my one class. And first of all, it's hard. No, actually, it's a little easy. But my teacher's hard. And so that's one thing. And then for those who follow me on social media, you also know I'm taking a welding class. and I'm not good at welding, MIG, TIG, or stick. So, but it's all about enjoying the journey and meeting people and building and gaining these skills. So, what am I going to do with welding? I don't know, build a spaceship. I'm not sure yet. I just know I want to learn it, I want to do it, and it's fun. And it helps inform me because I am actually a board member, a foundational board member for Sierra College. And I enjoy that they asked me to be on the board. So I love helping the local community.
All right, we've got a lot of great questions coming in online. A good line foreman here. Please get in line if you have a question. We'll try to get to everybody. We've got some time. Here's a great question. Tell us about the longest mission you ever had in a U-2.
The longest mission I had is flying in Operation Enduring Freedom over Afghanistan. So it was probably over 10 hours, over 10 and a half hours.
Wow, that is a lot of time.
That's a long time sitting.
All right, we've got next question over here.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sean, and I was wondering, your book is available today, right? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So
Amazon.
I was just wondering. Can you go over the book and tell us a little bit about what compelled you to write it? Maybe what your progression of thought was in the book. And
Yes.
I have some daughters of color that I brought here today, and I was wondering, and I wanted to know some experiences you had as being a female of color in the service, to see how you overcame those, or what you encountered, so we could sort of get a gleam of what challenges you had to overcome to
Yes.
to get in that position where you are right now.
Okay, so the book is called Shatter the Sky. And it's available on Amazon, and it's available where books are sold, actually. You can buy it on demand in other places, or go to Barnes & Nobles and order it. It's a memoir about myself. It's divided into 4 parts: from Girl from the Bronx, Gold Wings, Silver Wings, and the next mission. And it just talks about my life, growing up in the 70s and becoming a U-2, the first and only black female to fly the U-2 aircraft, and some of those trials and tribulations that I had along the way. It's written in vignettes, so all the people who like to look at Instagram and read short bursts, it's perfect for you. And so it just tells stories, and it tells stories about my kids. It tells stories about going to flight school. I went to flight school in the 90s. So in the 90s, the statistics that I usually tell people is in 2020, women of color in aviation, in all branches of service, make up less than 0.2%. That's 2020. So in 1994, no one has ever been able to give me any numbers, but I'm sure it was less than that. Okay, so, and that's still a small number. So when I went to flight school, I was there was a push for minorities in aviation. I was one of 5 women of color to go through the program at Corpus Christi, Texas, and I was the only one to complete. There were other people of color that went through, other males, and I would think maybe about, 60% of them completed. When I went to flight school, I think the instructors, for the most part, were fair. The instructor that I wrote about in the book, his name was Gramps. He went call sign Gramps. His name was Ronnie Robinson. He was a tough instructor. He was mean in the aircraft, and he was tough on me. And I wouldn't expect any less because he demanded perfection from me. And he was one of my first mentors that kind of got me through when I doubted myself and my abilities when I didn't get jets. But let me table that for a second. He was a good instructor. The instructors in the military are great. However, the simulator instructors who came from the Vietnam era and the Korean conflict and all these others, they were a little different. And I don't think they really appreciated, some of them didn't really appreciate people of color there. And it's just a mindset. This is how they were, this is how they thought back in the days. And that was my experience. But it didn't stop me. I definitely had some incidences, but that's okay because my on-wing, I tell the story of, we were having a discussion, and he said to me, and I'll describe him. He was a Caucasian gentleman from the South with all white hair. That's why he had the call sign Gramps. And he talked to me. He said, Merrill, when you walk into a room, people will think a lot of things about you. They will think you're here because of X, Y, and Z, and A1, A2, A3, and all that stuff. And he says, but if you perform like you did because you're one of my best students, eventually they are only going to have to say you're there because you're that damn good. So I took that with me throughout. And don't get me wrong, as a person of color in the military, and I think with a lot of people, especially women, you'll have this feeling of imposter syndrome, as we call it now. But he's always in the back of my mind. And if you perform and continue to perform, then those people who are talking about you, eventually they're going to be talking behind your back because you have just moved on beyond them. And so that's what I tell people, and that's one of the lessons in the story.
It's fantastic. For those of you who want to pick up a copy, you will be autographing after we're done here, right?
I will.
Feel free to grab one of those and get it signed. We've got a long line here, so I want to give people a chance. Let's go ahead and go to the next question here.
Could you talk more about your transition from rotorcraft to flying the T-38?
So from rotorcraft to flying the T-38, so everyone in the Navy and Air Force fly fixed wing first. So I flew T-34s first. And going to helicopters, okay, you're going to the helicopter community, you're learning to fly in helicopters, you're learning to hover for the first time, which is really eye-opening for a lot of people. And then once you do that and you get winged, you can go back to the fixed wing community if they accept you, if they take you back. So the transition, when I left helicopters to fly the T-34 again to be an instructor, I've already flown that aircraft, so it didn't take much. There was nothing cosmic about it. And then going from the T-34 to the T-6 is a little faster, a little bit more capable. And then when you do all that and you go to the T-38, to be honest, the T-38 it's fast. I mean, it's supersonic. Keep your feet off the rudder pedals and you'll be okay. Especially when the gear comes down, because it's a handful. It's faster, and it's something that you adjust to over time. So when you do that in the U-2, you fly the T-38 first, and you fly maybe, I don't know, about 20 or so flights. I don't remember, but I just remember it was not a huge jump because at that point I was flying the T-6s, and then getting to the T-38. Yeah, your landing speed's fast. I think what flaps down is 155 plus fuel, 170 plus fuel for no flap. Anyone? Sounds about right. So it's just things come faster at you, but you get used to it over time. And you need that type of scan in the T-38 because in the U-2, believe it or not, even though the U-2 is subsonic, it'll kill you if you're not scanning fast enough in that aircraft. I always tell people it's the slowest aircraft to kill you the quickest if you sleep on her. She's called the Dragon Lady for a reason.
Got a lot of good questions coming in. I want to jump to our online audience really quick. This is from some of our virtual high school students.
Hi.
What was the scariest experience in your career so far?
The scariest experience, I write about this in my book, is when I was flying helicopters one night off the east coast of Virginia. We were doing what's called JTFX. What is that? It's a joint exercise prior to long cruise deployment. And I was what's called an H-2P. I was a helicopter second pilot. I just finished my mission qualification, and it was my first time flying training missions off the back of the boat. And I was with an aircraft commander who, he wasn't the strongest, and he was pretty obnoxious. And we were, I didn't like him. Anyway, did I say that out loud? Yeah, I didn't like him. And so we were doing a mission where we had to find a sub, and we had to visually ID it and drop a a chem light or something to ID it. And we were sub hunting, and we found the sub. We knew where it was. We had ping. We were doing active pinging. Sorry, you know, we were dropping these sonic buoys. We knew where it was. We couldn't see it because it was no moon, pitch black. There was a layer of fog, so we couldn't see it. We were hovering. We were going slow, around 200 feet orbiting, and we couldn't go any lower because we were at nighttime. You could not drop below 200 feet because about a month prior, a crew went into the water at night doing the same thing, and they put a perfectly good aircraft in the ground, and they changed standard operating procedures to avoid it. So my aircraft commander came up with this great idea of let's do a coupled hover, because you could do an automatic approach to 50 feet, which was legal, and then we could try and find it. And as the 2P being stupid, I was like, okay, right? This is not the good thing. So he said, get out the checklist. I'm getting out the checklist to look. And as I'm doing that, I'm fumbling for the checklist because I'm new and it's dark and we're bouncing all around and it's, you know, I'm just losing my bearing. As I'm doing that and my head's down, he starts a manual descent and doesn't say anything to myself or the crew member in the back. So as he's descending, I'm still looking for it. I find the checklist. And then I feel the aircraft hit a bump, and I look up at the altitude because it's the first thing you're trained to do. And we're descending through 20 feet. And so I yell power, I grab the collective. It's okay, I made it. She's like, oh my gosh, what happened? I'm sorry, Ashley. So I grab the collective, I yell power. The air crew member was outside looking, and he didn't know we were descending because it was pitch black. So he looked inside, and we hit about 6 feet. So if there was a sea state that night, that wouldn't have been a good day. So we climb up. No one says anything for the remainder of the flight. We don't even debrief. This is how shaken up we are. Like nothing. And it was a huge lesson for me that night. Like as a helicopter second pilot or a co-pilot or someone who's new, do not put 100% faith in your aircraft commander. Call them on it, like for real, because you don't know how good they are, if they're having a bad day, did they make a mistake, because that's your life too, and that's the air crew member's life as well. So from that point on, I watched that guy. When we flew together, But with anyone, you know, and if you have an aircraft commander that takes that personal, then you need to question that, because as pilots, we're in this together, this cockpit resource management. You should be working together. It's not put your hands on the sheet and shut your mouth. Really, let's get out and we're gonna fight, because I'm not getting in the aircraft with you if you're gonna treat me like that. So we're in this together, our lives are in it together. So let's look out for each other, and let's not take it personal if the new person sees something that the experienced person does not. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's go to our next question here at the mic.
Was it hard to learn how to drive the U-2?
Was it hard to learn? The interview process is interesting because you fly 3 flights in it. I will say the first 2 flights, I didn't think I was going to get picked up. I'll be honest with you. I destroyed some tail wheels on my first 2 flights. I'm embarrassed about that. But, you know, that's what happens. Because the wing control, my wing control is in a bicycle landing gear configuration. Once you land, you still have to keep the wings up. And so if you don't, and the wings are doing this and bouncing back and forth, it'll wear down the small wheel in the back, which is basically a glorified skateboard wheel. And so I think we had to end the first flight early because I destroyed the tail wheel. So I wasn't feeling good about myself. But it all came together in the 3rd flight. So like it clicked. My instructor at that time said something. He's like, why don't you just fly the aircraft? And, you know, I was like, oh. Anyway, it's in the book. So it was a challenge at first. The landings are hard. The U-2 landings in the aircraft, you have to be on airspeed pretty tight for landings. Same at altitude when you're flying the aircraft. The higher you up in altitude, the smaller the margin is between stalling the aircraft because you're too slow and overspeeding the aircraft. So we call that the coffin corner. And so you're on autopilot usually up high, but even then, you know, if you get hit by turbulence or something, that can easily, you can go out of the window very quickly. So it's difficult. But that's what I loved about it. It's the challenge. I mean, you have, and I think I missed this part in what I was talking about, you have probably around 1,100 U-2 pilots in the 67 years that this aircraft has flown. So there's probably more F-22 and F-35 pilots out there now than there are U-2 pilots. There are people who have interviewed in this aircraft that have flown F-15s and F-16s. They get in this aircraft and say, no, thank you. Because you have to be, you know, you have to have this mindset. You have a pressure suit on. You can't see very well. You have a mobile in the back giving you calls. You're coming back after a 10-hour mission, and now you have to stall this aircraft at 2 feet. That's not for the faint of heart. That's not for, you know, it's not for everyone. So some people think we are not quite right, and I would agree with you to some extent, because you need to be a special person to want to subject your body to these pressures on a daily basis. So, yeah.
That's great. That was a great question. Thank you.
And adding on to that, what advice would you give to people who are trying to learn really hard things?
Be ready to fail. And when you do, and the next time it takes you a little longer to fail, be like, that's a win. Like I do welding, and I was doing metal inert gas welding, also known as MIG welding. And I remember one day I did a video, and I said in the video, today I'm going to suck less. Because that was my bar, that was my measure of success. I could not, my instructor, I would run a bead. She's like, it's not good enough. The amperage is too low. You got to run it harder, run it faster. I'd run it faster. Okay, you got to run it faster. And I'm like, what? And it was very frustrating. So in my mind, I have never seen so many people cry in a welding class in my life. We had a couple of criers, but it was so frustrating. And after 3 hours in a lab, and you had all this molten metal, and you felt like a failure. So one day I was just like, I'm just going to try and suck less every day. And I did, and I did well in the class, but it was trial and tribulation to do so. And but we had a good group of people, and we all succeeded together.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
I think we have 2 more questions in the room that we'd like to get to, so feel free to come on up.
Hello, my name is Timothy.
Hi, Timothy.
Born and raised in Washington, D.C.
All right.
Aviation enthusiast since I was the first time I seen Top Gun. Being a young black aviation enthusiast, ever since 2001, 9/11, I've kind of had this passion for not only America, but flying. And I'm kind of at this crossroads right now where I can necessarily become a pilot, but I'm doing so well in the field that I'm at that I just don't know. It's always been a dream of mine to fly. It's always been a dream of mine to serve. But what advice would you give a young black man looking to soar?
So, how old are you, if I may ask?
29.
29? So, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is the age limit to finish pilot training 29, except in the Coast Guards, I think they now have changed that age limit. Yes? No? 33? Okay. And so what do you do in your regular job?
I am cybersecurity specialist.
Cybersecurity. Okay. So, what if you pursue flying and it doesn't work out? Do you think you could go back to cybersecurity?
100%.
So, you're 29. Why not take the chance and see? Like what's the worst? like you could go back. Look, cybersecurity is here to stay, and you can always keep up by reading some books and doing all that stuff, but I mean, you're going to soon age out in the ability to join the military and try it. And, you know, maybe you do it for a couple of years and you go to cybersecurity in the military. So I think that affords some avenues for you if you go to the military. And if it doesn't work out, you can still try to do cybersecurity in the military because they're always looking for people. I mean, seriously. Or you could work for the Space Force. So I would say, why not? Like, what do you got to lose at that point? You're welcome.
That's great. Let's have this be the last question, and thank you all.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about, you know, when you fly the U-2, the attention is often on the ground, but you mentioned the ISS, and I was curious, are there things you see when you look up? Can you, for example, see the ISS in flight?
Interesting question. No, I've not. I mean, I've seen satellites, but you can see satellites from the ground as well. So I will tell you, when you're up at night and things are undisturbed by lighting pollution, I mean, the amount of stars you see are infinite. It's amazing. It's overwhelming of what you see. And I mean, that's light from distant stars that may or may not be here now, but it's incredible. So when you look up, it is like a planetarium. It's like your own planetarium. That's what it really looks like.
That's amazing. Well, I want to say in closing here, thank you so much to our ASL interpreter, Jonathan. Thank you so much to our online viewers and to GE Aerospace. You'll be signing the book downstairs. Feel free to stop by, get it autographed, pick up a copy. Our next lecture is Jackie Cochran, Pilot, Leader, and Myth. That's next Wednesday, May 10th at the Udvar Hazy Center. I'm going to hand it back to, no? Come on up. I'll hand it back to our director to say some parting
You've covered it all. I just want to again express on behalf of our in-person audience, our online audience, our collective thanks for an amazing evening. I know many of us would love to have it go longer, but as Mike has noted, you are going to be signing books downstairs for those that are interested, and I don't want to hold folks up from that wonderful opportunity. So thank you all. Again, you know, I share with others that our time is perishable. We can't get it back, and which gives it great value. And the fact that you've chosen to spend your time with us this evening is a true gift, and so I want to thank you for that. And we hope you'll come back frequently to enjoy this national treasure and to hear incredible stories like you've heard from Merrill tonight. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.